Yes, it's everyone's favorite kids movie. What the hell am I doing? Joking aside, we have just a few days until the new Netflix show The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance comes out, and I thought it would be fun to take a deep dive into this Jim Henson classic. So get on your Landstriders, because here we go. The main plot of The Dark Crystal is quite simple. A gelfling by the name of Jen must save the world by reuniting the Dark Crystal with its missing shard. You see, everything was great in the world until the Dark Crystal was cracked.
1,000 years ago, this land was green and good, until the crystal cracked.
The cracking of the crystals spawned two new races, the Skeksis, these vulture-looking creatures, and the Mystics, also known as the Uru. The Skeksis took control over the Crystal Castle and dominated the land, killing anything that got in their way, including all the members of Jen's race, the Gelflings. Jen was lucky and was saved by the Mystics. However, his real journey begins with the death of his master, who tells him of a prophecy that he needs to find the crystal shard to save the world.
To save our world, Gelfling, you must find the shard.
If he doesn't, the evil Skeksis will rule forever. With the death of Jen's master, we learn a little bit more about how the Skeksis and Mystics are intertwined. When one of the Skeksis dies, so too does a Mystic. They are inextricably linked. It isn't until the end of the movie that we see this manifest, but we'll get into that in a bit. In the Crystal Castle, the death of the Emperor, which coincided with the death of Jen's master, has left a power vacuum. Two Skeksis, the Chamberlain and the General, battle it out for superiority in a ritual known as Trial by Stone, in which both characters beat the crap out of a stone to see who can break it apart. The General's just too damn powerful, and, as is Skeksis' law, the defeated Chamberlain is stripped of his clothing and banished. Is this really a kids' movie? The crystal summons the Skeksis, which shows them an image of a Gelfling, which shocks them to no end because they thought they killed the Gelflings ages ago, and they know that the prophecy states a Gelfling will destroy them.
The prophecy says Gelfling will destroy us.
Speaking of prophecy, Jen meets up with Ogra. Ogra? Anyway, the woman he was sent to find who may know the whereabouts of the missing shard.
The Great Conjunction is the end of the world! Oh, the beginning?
You see, every 1,000 years the three suns line up in an event known as the Great Conjunction. That's when the crystal last cracked, and the next conjunction is almost here. Jen must make sure the crystal is fully restored before this event, or it could have catastrophic consequences. Augra, whose name sounds very similar to augur, an ancient Roman term for prophet or soothsayer, shows Jen a collection of glass shards which could be the one needed for the crystal. He uses his flute, because you know, that's what you do, which resonates with the crystal, showing him which one to choose. But just as things are going well, they're attacked by the menacing Garthim. The Garthim are these scarab-type creatures who are under the command of the Skeksis, specifically the General, who has now become Emperor. Around the same time, the Mystics hear the call of the crystal and begin their march to the castle for their final stand. Jen is able to escape and bumps into another Gelfling by the name of Kira. This is strange for the both of them since they both think they're the last Gelfling alive. Kira, like Jen, was raised as an orphan after her parents were killed by the Skeksis, but unlike Jen, who was raised by the Mystics, Kira was raised by the Podlings. The Podlings are these cute creatures who are used by the Skeksis as slaves and also drained of their living essence by the scientist for the Emperor.
Think of the children!
The Skeksis have devised this machine using the crystal to drain creatures of their living essence, which is then drunk by the Emperor in order to make him young again. There's only one problem. Podling essence isn't as strong as Gelfling and only lasts a few seconds. If only there were some Gelflings around to experiment on. Kira takes Jen back to the Podling village where they have some Return of the Jedi Ewok type celebration, which is cut short by another Garthim attack. They're once again able to escape, but the toll of the journey isn't sitting so well with Jen.
I wish I'd never heard of this shard. Came up with a handful of great...
He throws the crystal shard away, lamenting about how it's caused him nothing but trouble. Kira gives him a pep talk and retrieves the shard back to him when they uncover what is known as the House of the Old Ones, ancient Gelfling ruins of their ancestors. It's here that Jen reads the ancient prophecy on the wall.
When single shines the triple sun, what was sundered and undone shall be whole, the two made one, by Gelfling hand or else by none.
Let's break it down. When single shines the triple sun is basically referring to how when the three suns align during the Great Conjunction, they'll create a single beam of light. The next line, what was sundered and undone shall be whole, refers to both the crystal itself and the fusion of the Skeksis and Mystics. Both of these things will be made whole. And the final line, the two made one by Gelfling hand or else by none, simply means that a Gelfling will do this or not at all. This is the prophecy Aughra and the Mystics referred to, but for our characters, they still don't quite know what it means yet. Kira calls on these weird-ass Landstrider creatures, and they attack the Garthim in order to save the captured podlings, but the Garthim prove too strong, and Jen and Kira are pushed over the side of a chasm. But in a shocking twist, Kira has wings. As she later tells Jen, only female Gelflings have wings.
But what if I want wings? You don't need wings.
Jen and Kira are able to find a hidden entrance into the castle where they're attacked by the Chamberlain. The Chamberlain, after having been banished, is looking for a way back into the Emperor's good graces, so capturing a Gelfling would be the perfect gift. Jen is trapped under some rubble, and Kira is brought to the mad scientist where her essence will be extracted. But Kira has another special ability. She's able to communicate with animals. She uses this power to free the caged creatures who are able to push the Skeksis scientist into the lava core of the castle.
Children!
It's here we get another reminder of how the Skeksis and Mystics are linked. When the Skeksis scientist dies here, so too does one of the Mystics. Jen emerges from the rubble and climbs his way up to the main chamber where the Skeksis have gathered. The Great Conjunction is about to happen at any moment. It's only with the help of Kira, who's able to throw the crystal shard to Jen in the nick of time, that Jen is able to make the crystal whole again, but not without a cost. Kira is stabbed by the Emperor. The castle starts to fall apart along with the Garthim. The podlings regain their life essence, but it's only with the arrival of the Mystics that the prophecy is truly fulfilled. The crystal's beam travels through the Mystics and into the Skeksis, compelling the Skeksis to merge into the Mystics until they become something entirely new.
And now the prophecy is fulfilled. We are again one.
These beings here are known as the Fallen Urskek, who were banished from their homeworld during the last conjunction. In their attempt to purify themselves through the power of the Great Crystal, they inadvertently divided themselves into two separate beings, the violent, materialistic Skeksis and the gentle, contemplative Mystics. But what is most apparent here is the symbolism of good combining with evil, how we all have the capacity to sway toward the light or dark. The Urskek are the physical representation of this, but also of our own humanity. We can be violent and materialistic, but also kind and compassionate. At the end of the day, it's up to us who we want to be. Embrace bravery, kindness, and courage like Jen, or jealousy, materialism, and violence like the Chamberlain.
She is part of you, as we all are part of each other.
With the crystal restored and the prophecy fulfilled, the Urskek heal Kira so that Jen and Kira can make the world in the Crystal of Truth's light. The Crystal of Truth is the same thing as the Dark Crystal, just in a different form. The crystal's origin dates back to the formation of Thra, the land this story takes place in. It was the crystal who created Aughra to act as the voice and eyes of the rocks and the trees, a way for it to communicate to them. But during the first Great Conjunction, the Urskeks used the beam of light to travel from their planet to Thra. For 1,000 years, the Urskek ruled, tearing down the mountains surrounding the crystal and building the castle around it, which we see this crystal castle at the end of the movie. They ruled much better than the Skeksis, bringing new technology to the world and for the most part getting along with all of its inhabitants. It wasn't until the second Great Conjunction, when the Urskeks wanted to purify themselves of their darker nature, that the crystal split apart, causing what's known as the Great Division. That's how we get the Skeksis and the Mystics. But some of you are probably wondering how all of this fits into the new Netflix show, The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. Age of Resistance is a prequel to The Dark Crystal set many years before the events of the film. It follows 3 Gelflings who inspire a rebellion against the Skeksis when they discover a horrifying secret behind their power that threatens the world of Thra. This matches up with what we've learned from the movie. Both Kira and Jen believe themselves to be the last of the Gelflings, but in the trailers we see the entire Gelfling civilization before the war with the Skeksis. It's a bit bittersweet to watch a show where we know the outcome is the Gelflings losing, but my guess is that the writers will have a way around this. Regardless, the trailers are chock full of new creatures and old, like Aughra, the Landstriders, the Crystal Castle, and even Podlings. I hope you'll join me when Age of Resistance comes out, as I'm planning to do a video covering the entire season. So make sure to like and subscribe with the bell on, and give me your thoughts on the movie below. You can follow me on Twitter at ThinkStoryYT, and remember, Daddy loves you very much.